Hello, I just realized I was dancing and took off my earrings. So I'm going to put those back in. Yes, so I take little dance party breaks every once in a while during the day to get the blood flow in and stay fit and get energized because it can get pretty sitting in your office by yourself. I'm sure you know that, right? You just need to get up and take a break and walk around and dance. Anyways, that's why I had my earrings off. Looks like we had our first person join us. Welcome. Feel free, if you could leave a comment below, that would be awesome. Hey, hello. It lets me know you can hear me, and it helps Facebook get the word out to the people who've joined the group to join. So what we're going to talk about today, if you've been following along with the free training, you know that in the beginning of the week, we talked about the opportunities for business analysts and how this is an expanding role, and how the way that you get confidence is not by building up all this knowledge. Knowledge is important, but the confidence comes truly from taking action, right? So truly taking action is how you get to the next level in your career. And then the confidence comes from that. It's actually the main result we see people say at the end of our programs, I just feel so much more confident now. It doesn't come because they just learned the materials. It comes because they also did the work, they did the business analysis, and then they got review on that work from our instructors. So they know, I know how to do this, right? So we're going to walk through as much of that as we can in the free training and in this group over the next few weeks while we open up the next session of the blueprint. What we talked about in the second video, yesterday's video on the free training, is how to analyze a business process, and how there are always opportunities to analyze a business process, and how that's usually the very first thing we do when we're on our path into business analysis. And if we're not doing it as business analysts, it's a really important technique to add to our toolkit and to start doing. It helps us avoid missing requirements, engage with our stakeholders, and all of that. And so if you're like, Laura, yeah, that's great, it works for other people, it doesn't work for me, I don't have a process I can analyze right now, that's the objection and the limiting belief I want you to overcome in this video. So hi, Rajesh. You've been watching my videos on YouTube and they're awesome. Thank you. I really appreciate hearing that. We, over really the last year and a half, have really gotten amped up on our YouTube following and our videos, and I've gotten more comfortable getting behind the camera and sharing, and then this live kind of video is another layer and level to that. So if you're just joining us, please say hi, leave a comment below. I'd always love to hear from you. And if you have any questions as you're going through, and whether you're live or listening to the replay, leave a comment, and I will be answering comments as we go through. And also after I'm done here, if you have a comment or a question, I'll be answering those as well through text, magic fingers afterwards. So we're talking about choosing a process to analyze, leveraging the template, the learning that you did in the free training that came out yesterday, which was all about how to analyze a business process, right? And why this is important. So, but what if you're like, I don't feel like I know? Here's the deal. We've helped thousands of people do this in our programs, and there is always a process to analyze. We can always help you find a process, right? And so I just want to call BS on this, it won't work for me. I'm kind of known for my kind ways, and then a little bit of tough love. That's the tough love, Laura, of there is always something to analyze, okay? There is always a business process, whether it's one you're doing yourself, whether it's one your stakeholders are doing, whether it's something at home, whether it's in a volunteer situation, there is always a process to analyze. And it's almost always the next thing in front of you to take your business analyst career to the next level. I've just seen it happen so many times, and we've helped so many people kind of figure this out in their unique situation. I'm just going to talk about a few of the situations I've seen in the group and in the comments on the free training so far, and answer those specifically. So one person mentioned that they're in QA and wanting to move into business analysis. I love that background. I was a QA engineer, technically a data testing engineer before I moved into my business analyst position. And one of the ways that I analyzed a business process and qualified, essentially got myself noticed for that business analyst opportunity, was the area that I was testing, the kind of testing I was doing was a new area in our company. It was a new process, right? It was a new test plan. So I was creating test plans saying, this is how we are going to approach testing and verifying the data. Well, what I saw once I learned more about business analysis is that's what business analysts do. They take this, it was like this ambiguous role. Nobody really knew what it was supposed to do. They just knew that there was always problems with the data and they needed somebody to fix it. And I took that mess and I turned it into a consistent, repeatable process. Now, I didn't create a process document. I created a test plan because that's what QA engineers do, right? They create test plans. But that test plan was a business process. And so that is one way to think about it. How could you analyze your test process, improve your test process, fill the gaps in the test process, maybe get more stakeholders involved in the test process? That was another thing I did in that job that helped me move into a business analyst position. It's not process specifically, but I was doing what now I know is a lot of user acceptance testing and coordinating user acceptance testing. So we had all these editorial team members who were kind of in charge of the content, and they would usually just kind of go in and be like, oh, nothing's showing up right. Like the system is broken, right? And like throw up their hands up in the air. And that's like literally what they were doing. And so I worked with them to create their test plan of how they could review the system, what kinds of issues they should expect to see and not to see, what kinds of feedback and testing would be most important to leverage their expertise versus what other people on the formal test team were doing. And so we created essentially a user acceptance testing process as well. And that helped streamline, they, instead of like 100 issues of like, it's not working, or just throwing our hands up in the air, it's not working kind of feedback, we actually were able to leverage their time really responsibly and use their time really well as well. So that was part, and that just showed that kind of relationship building and process development and understanding of the business community is part of what helped me get elevated into a business analyst role in that organization. So Rajesh, I hope I'm saying your name correctly as well. I've worked for 6 years in transitional roles: business development, marketing, research and analysis, people management, and quality analysis. Awesome. None with the title of BA. Am I eligible for a mid-level business analyst? So what I often recommend for people who are mid-career professionals looking to start in business analysis is there's really not a lot of entry-level business analyst roles, which I'm sure you're seeing. And it's not a common path. Like those roles are for recent college grads with very little career experience who want entry-level salaries. So yes, with your experience, you do want to be looking at a mid-level role, possibly even in an area that has the right intersection of domain and industry expertise that you might have. You could even be looking at a senior level role, right? So don't say, oh, I'm not the senior level, right? If you can find something that really capitalizes on your unique area of expertise and is in business analysis, it could even be a senior level role. I've seen it happen again and again. So great question. Thanks for bringing that up. Okay, so I see there's more comments coming in. I love it, love it, love it. So I will come back to those. I do want to talk just quickly about some of the other business process opportunities. So hey, Jennifer. Awesome, welcome, welcome. So what if you're a subject matter expert? I talked about what I did in QA to analyze business process. What if you're a subject matter expert? Where did this come up? It must have been in the comments somewhere. There's been a lot of interaction lately as we've been doing this free training, but I was talking to somebody and she's like, oh, no, it was in the comments on the free training. Like, I can use this. Like, I am a subject matter expert or a stakeholder on an upcoming project to implement a new system. It's going to impact my department, right? And I'm working one-on-one really closely with the business analysts on that project. And they just keep asking me, they don't understand my process. They don't understand how it's working. And they're asking me for requirements, right? So as a subject matter expert like that, you can analyze your own business processes. What do you do in your work? And this is really for any business person, anyone in a business role can always analyze the work that they're doing and put it into a process analyst. It actually works for technologists too. So we've had people in our programs who are on the technology side analyze like their project development process or their software development process or their testing process or their code deployment process, right? So the processes that you use to implement software are also business processes. Kind of meta, but it works and it definitely qualifies for the course. It definitely gets you more into a business focused role. It elevates you from just coding the software and figuring out the technology to like, how are we going to actually build and deploy this technology in the best possible way? And the same thing on the subject matter expert side, when you are going into meetings like for a system that's going to impact your work in your department, and you can speak super intelligently to how your process works and how your process flows, that's going to help you make good decisions about what the requirements should be. It's also going to elevate the perception that people have of you as a really high quality stakeholder. It's going to lead to more opportunities to do more business analysis, which is really what you want here, right? This is why we start with business process analysis, because it's not like we do this and then it's done. We do this and then it cycles into other things. And you want to you're like kicking off that virtuous cycle of one business analysis opportunity leading to another. And that's really the whole point. Okay, so another common challenge that we face is, what if I'm not currently working, right? What if I'm in between jobs? I just talked to somebody earlier this week who was in between jobs, and one of the areas that we narrowed in for him was that he could actually look at one of the processes that he did as a business subject matter expert in his most recent employment situation. So you could go backwards and look at a process like that. Usually, sometimes you can even like, depending on your relationship with the company, one of the participants we have in the blueprint is actually has done a little consulting for his company. And so we've talked about maybe going back and saying, would you like help analyzing this process I did in the past, maybe on a pro bono basis just to get started, maybe on a paid consulting basis. So you can also kind of go back and maybe even re-involved with the company, depending on your relationship as well. So you can have that true stakeholder environment experience too. But that's not the only option if you're in between opportunities. We also see people volunteer for business analyst job roles at like a nonprofit or a small business. One of the participants in the most recent round of the blueprint volunteered at a local childcare center, and she analyzed the process for what happens when a new family signs up to use our childcare services. What are the forms we need? What is the information we need about them? How does this process work? How do we get them set up and signed up for their blocks of childcare? And then she ended up taking that all the way through and analyzing some of the software and data around that as well. So she took that through to software requirements and data requirements, which is beyond what we're talking about here, just business process, kind of that first step to get you started. So lots of opportunities. And if that doesn't work out, like just analyze a process that you do at home, right? How do you get out the door? How do you make a decision about an important purchase for your family? How are you going to choose what your childcare looks like, or what your schools look like for your kids, or what your next job looks like? What is your process to be applying to jobs every day, right? Or every week? What does your ideal workflow look like for that? So you can always take it and apply it in your personal life too. We talked a little bit, as a systems dev role, more on the tech side. You can use it to talk about look at your systems process. You can also, though, use it as a tool, like if you're more on the system side today, more kind of coding and technical design and figuring out what the software needs to do. The gap in understanding that you often have is like, well, how does the business really use this? Like they say they want this, and then a month later they come back and they say they want this, and it seems to be different than what they wanted before. Why do they keep changing their mind? Why am I continually working and reworking this code? They want this new field on this form, but do they actually need to report on it? What's the full process here, right? And so before jumping in and just like speccing out the requirements, or even just like coding that change, can you go to them and say, let's look at this end-to-end process, right? Let's understand what's happening today and the full scope of things so that we can understand how to improve it in the future. And so I can make sure this software piece that I'm implementing for you solves the real problem. And that's a lot of what you're doing with business process analysis. You're trying to figure out, are you solving the right problem and what problem are we solving. This is how we avoid missing requirements, and this is how we engage our stakeholders, because when we understand the right problem or the problem that we're solving, then we are immediately more engaged with those stakeholders, and they start to see us as a partner to help them solve that problem rather than as somebody who just has a bunch of questions and answer these now. So I see a lot of new people joining us, which is awesome. I've just been going through what are the opportunities to analyze a process. If you missed the first 15 minutes or so, you might want to check in on the replay to grab that. But then if you also have any questions or are challenged about what process you might analyze as you're going through the free training or other challenges for your career, feel free to drop a comment below. And I just love to hear from you, where you're watching from and what you are doing and what you're getting out of the free training so far. So I'm going to go back through some of the comments that we had, and then I'll answer whatever new questions and comments come in as well. So Rajesh says, I am really working on building a proper CV to fit into the role. All I feel is a serious dearth of technical expertise. Okay, so there are what I'm seeing right now in the profession is there's two ways that technical expertise, I kind of use air quotes though there, but technical expertise is coming up as it relates to business analysis. And one is like true technical expertise, like coding, right? Like I can code the software. I can set up the software. I can customize the software. Like true technical skills. That's historically what I thought of as technical skills. The second category that I'm seeing people say technical skills is like functional domain knowledge of how to use a software. So I use Salesforce.com a lot as an example. My husband's a Salesforce.com consultant, so it's something I'm kind of familiar with. But you know, when you think about implementing a CRM like Salesforce or any other tool, we use a lot of other tools in our business. There's like a functional, like how does that software work? It's not how is that software built? It's how does that software work? And we are seeing in the business analysis profession a lot of preference for business analysts who understand how the software that an organization uses works. So, for example, with Salesforce, there's a lot of Salesforce.com business analyst roles in which you both have the key business analyst skills and the industry standard best practices. That's what we teach at Bridging the Gap. And intimate knowledge of how Salesforce works and how you administrate it and what the potential is of that software. And so that sometimes people say that as a technical skill. So Rajesh, I'd be kind of interested which of the ones you're seeing pop up for you, or if it's something a little bit different than that, and what impact that's having for you in your career. So we do see that preference to people who have that expertise, and often the best path forward is to look at the tools and experiences that you have and the areas that you have. So Rajesh, you had said, I'm just looking back here, like all these different job roles that you had experience in. I'm sure you used lots and lots of tools, and are probably the expert in some of those. And those could be areas that you focus on. When I mentioned finding that expertise that could even land you a senior business analyst position, it would be based on some either industry expertise or tool expertise, quote unquote technical expertise, or functional domain expertise combined with probably these underlying transferable skills you have in business analysis. Okay, so that's my thought on that, and let me know a little bit more about what you're looking for there. All right, I see lots of new comments, yay. Sredo, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I work as a consultant business analyst and must admit, I found your videos really helpful. Awesome, thanks for sharing that. I don't think there's any shame or guilt in that. One of the themes I want to speak to in this particular launch that we're doing in February of the Business Analyst Blueprint is how important it is to focus on the fundamentals, right? And we think that because we've been doing this for a long time, like we need to learn something new or fancy, or it's like, I don't really like those core techniques, like I should have that already. I need to learn this next new thing, right? Right? Like this something new and jazzy. You know, it's this when you think about what wins a football game, there was a Patriots fan in our group, right? Or what wins a basketball game? It's 98% fundamentals. Well, it's a lot coaching, right? It's a lot of coaching and systems. But when you think about the players and the skills that they have that get them to that level, it's how they throw the ball. It's how they shoot the basket. It's how they block, right? And then, yeah, of course, there's always that point or that moment when something magical happens that's different and the crazy play that catches everybody by surprise. But that's like the extra little bit. The core fundamentals is what wins games. And the core fundamentals, the industry standard best practices that we are going to review and give you a detailed inventory of in the third part of the free training, that's what enables you to be successful again and again and again on your projects. Okay, so it's totally okay that you found our videos helpful. It's actually it makes a lot of sense. Okay. When will be my next free live stream? Jennifer asks. I'm not 100% sure. I've been doing this a little bit fly by the seat of my pants, kind of figuring out what works for people. Most likely either Monday or Tuesday. All right, probably Tuesday. Actually I have tons of team meetings on Monday afternoon, so probably Tuesday afternoon. Let's see. Anurada asks, looking to break into a BA role after a long career break and new to tech but from the business side. Perfect. You're in the right place. Hi, Maria. Will we get its recording? Yes. So this is recorded by Facebook and will be in the group, and you'll be able to get the replay there. For our free training, you can click on the link and kind of go through it at any point until we open up the blueprint. So the free training is only available for a limited time, but it is available anytime. Okay, Jennifer says Tuesday sounds good. Awesome. And hi, Eric. Welcome from Mexico. Okay. Well, those are some great questions and comments. I'm going to just stay on here for a couple minutes. So any challenges that are coming up, I'd love to hear what your business process is and what it looks like for you to take, what you're expecting that to do to take your career to the next level. All right. And is everybody part of the free training already, or do we need the link to that too? I'm going to go ahead and just, while I'm waiting here, take a minute and get that into the box. Because I know sometimes people are like feverishly typing comments. So okay. Jennifer asks, what is a useful mindset for what? Just one example for a BA. Oh gosh, there's so many good mindsets for a business analyst. One of the things that I'm seeing predominantly in our course participants, as well as just some of the conversations I've had with people who are getting started, especially in new roles, is this perfectionist tendency, right? And so the mindset of, I have to get all the requirements right, and I'm not really supposed to, or I'm not clear on how much review and validation and discovery I should do, right? So we kind of maybe have one meeting where we ask a bunch of questions, and then we put the entire burden of the requirements process on ourselves. And I'm saying this even though it's not me, but like as a person, right? And hold all that to ourselves and think we have to figure it all out. And we do have to figure a lot out. This is what makes the business analysis profession fun and intellectually stimulating and engaging and fulfilling for so many people, right? There is a lot of problem solving and analytical thinking that we do that's really good. But just as important is we need to engage our stakeholders, right? So we don't have to we shouldn't go through weeks on end of figuring out and analyzing and modeling requirements without having stakeholder meetings. And we need to set the expectation up front that we're going to have one meeting and then we're going to come back with more questions. And then as we figure things out, we're going to come back with more questions. You want to always be demonstrating incremental progress and showing how you're moving from ambiguity to clarity when you're doing that, right? So it's not just like I'm always asking more questions and there's just this like general churn and nobody's like, where are we going with this, right? You don't want that feeling. So you always want to be moving forward and demonstrating how you're moving forward. But you also need to set the expectation that as I analyze this, as I say, put this into a business process document and put our workflow diagram together, I'm going to discover gaps, questions I didn't even think to ask until I created this model. And so I'm going to be coming back to you with those questions and I'm going to need your input. And so from a mindset perspective, just finding that balance between doing the analytical work, thinking through things, and engaging with stakeholders is a really important mindset shift for new business analysts. And the other piece I see very common is owning the value of our skills and our experience. So to the point earlier, with the person who's like, I've done all these things, can I go for a mid-level BA role? Like there's a tendency, like I've done all these things and I need to start my whole career over as a business analyst, right? Like I need to start from the bottom and work my way back up, where really you want to be looking at what are all my leverage points? What transferable skills am I bringing forward? What do I need to add? What kind of training and support do I need to get to the next level so that I can start solidly in a mid-level or senior level role? Because there's just not a lot of entry-level roles out there. And so you need to own the value of that experience that you have to position yourself for a mid-level role that might require 3 to 5 years of experience, for example. Okay. I'm working about it with a coach and thinking about my personal and professional mindset. So I hope that was helpful, Jennifer. Feel free. I love talking about mindset. So feel free to ask follow-ups on that. Anurada asks, is it possible to get into BA with this training or do I need to enroll for another one or so? We'll talk more about the blueprint itself, in the coming weeks, once we're going to open up registration later next week. And then we can kind of, what I would need to see there, and just kind of to plant the seed now, like talk to me about your experience, what training you have, what kind of roles you're looking for. It is a very comprehensive training in business analysis. So to me, it's all the business analysis practices and skills that you need to be successful as a business analyst. But as we were talking about in the beginning, like the business analyst role can have these layers on top of it. And so there can be other technical or functional domain or industry skills that kind of get layered on top of it as well. Okay. Oh, Maria, I forget what your first question. Okay. Myself. Awesome. Rajesh, thanks for addressing the previous questions. Is it important to choose the industry before applying for appropriate roles? Worked previously in banking sector, product management, industrial appliances, and a web-based company. What industry is better for non-technology centric areas? Okay, so there's a lot in that one. I don't think you have to pick like one industry. However, you don't have to pick one industry. You might, though. You might say, like, I just love this industry and I'm going to build an expertise and a profile and credentials to make me successful in that. Like banking is an industry where we see a lot of people grow and a lot of industry experiences required because there's so many nuances to banking and finance and insurance. Like there's just so much complexity in those business domains that it's hard as an outsider to always like understand the language and understand the stakeholder needs when you don't have a certain level of understanding of the industry itself. But from a product management, I mean, that's a really good, like looking at consumer facing product companies that build web products or have a big online presence, which so many do today, right? Like that sounds to me like a great area to focus on for you, as well as banking. If you have a lot of experience in banking, you could leverage that because you're going to have that functional side of the technical knowledge, even though you might not have the coding side of the technical knowledge. So really look at what you're going to be best suited for and what you enjoy the most, because if you're going to be doing this for the next 5, 10, 15 years, and then even once you pick an industry, right, you might grow into other roles in that industry, pick something that really matters to you and that you have an interest in. Jennifer, oh good, I'm glad that was what you needed. So yeah, keep posting them here in the group. And this has gone on for almost a half an hour, so I'm going to close it for now, not to overwhelm people and put too much out there. But post your questions, post your comments, and if you could share the free training with any friends, colleagues, professional contacts, people that you know that might be interested in going through it. It's only going to be available for a little while longer, and we would love to reach as many people as possible with that training. We already have close to 2,000 people who have registered to go through it. So super excited about that. I love that my business model allows me to apply or to share this kind of resource with the broader community and to do a lot of kind of offering these free and complimentary resources, even if it's on a limited time basis. It's just a beautiful part of the business that I offer, and in that we love doing at Bridging the Gap. So thank you, everyone. I'll be back most likely next Tuesday, and of course I'll be in the group in between now and then. So share with your friends, and we look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Bye.